Romance, perhaps one of the most popular genres in media. There's just something endearing about watching a relationship between characters grow while overcoming whatever obstacles get in the way of their love. It's one that's packed with so much emotion and heart that it makes relating to it so easy. I mean, a lot of people out there have had romantic feelings towards another at least once in their lives, be it 3D or 2D. It's so easy investing in romance because you end up projecting yourself onto the characters in some way while learning from them in the process. Romance is also a huge staple in anime. It's able to blend pretty well with other genres and enhances the story the author is trying to tell, in some cases making it the best part of an anime that doesn't really focus on romance itself. Though I'm not a big fan of romance anime, there is one anime I picked up on a whim and ended up getting invested in it from the first episode simply because of its weird premise. Kuzu no Honkai, or Scum's Wish, is an anime based on a manga of the same name, airing in winter of 2017 and consisting of 12 episodes. It's a high school romance about two people, Hanabi and Mugi, who are both in love with their teachers. Yes, really. Hanabi has feelings for her childhood friend turned teacher, though I don't know if that counts as a childhood friend considering he's like way older than her. Yes, really. And Mugi has feelings for his tutors turned music teacher. Yes, really. So in order to cope with their unrequited feelings, they both find solace in each other's arms, pretending the other to be the one they actually love. Yes, as messed up as that sounds. But that's not all, as what starts out as a weird love square grows into something bigger as more characters get introduced to complicate matters and feelings. And everyone involved doesn't feel the same way towards the person who has feelings for them, so they just end up trying to fill the void, getting literally any kind of affection they can from the one they love, be it through attention or sexual gratification. The anime lures you in with this false sense of security, letting you oddly feel bad for Hanabi and Mugi as they try to comfort each other. You start to think that maybe as they pretend to love each other, they'll eventually get over their crushes and eventually fall in love for real. But oh boy, the anime pulls a complete 180 and completely messes everything up for everyone. It's called Scum's Wish for a reason, you know. Pretty much everyone in the main cast is an absolute piece of shit in one way or the other. They all desire love, but don't really know how to love or what exactly they want from being loved, which ends up creating a lot of warped perceptions on what love really is, when in reality, they're just really horny most of the time. So here's a brief rundown of the story. The story starts out with Hanabi and Mugi realizing that the other was in the exact situation as them, so they decide to pretend to date while satisfying each other's loneliness, imagining the other as the one they actually desire and promise each other not to catch feelings. But then we get introduced to two other girls, Mocha, who's Mugi's childhood friend and doesn't hide the fact that she has feelings for him, and Chan, a friend of Hanabi who has the hots for her and does not waste time expressing her feelings to Hanabi in more direct manners. Some more teenage shenanigans happens and we finally get to see the kind of person Mugi's crush actually is. Miss Akane. She's a sleazebag who sleeps around and just enjoys the affection and attention she gets from men and doesn't have any romantic feelings towards any of them. The anime tries to set her up as the antagonist, but that's just a big ol' fake out. She realizes that Hanabi has a crush on this guy, Kanai, who in turn has feelings for her, so just to mess with Hanabi, she leads him on. This shakes Hanabi up and puts her in a rather vulnerable state. Chan, seeing her friend like this, does what any good friend would do and provides Hanabi with a shoulder to cry on. Hang on. Meanwhile, Mugi is feeling down in the dumps, so he decides to hit up an old senpai of his to satisfy his horny. Mind you, this was just after Hanabi had confessed to wanting to try to love him. But then they both reconcile and somehow figure out that the other was out getting handsy with someone else, so I guess that just makes them even? Gosh, teenagers. Akane herself is feeling pretty bored that same day, and ends up being approached by Kanai. She clearly doesn't like him because he's so boring. In fact, he himself knows, but eventually decides to go out with him for drinks. One thing leads to another and they end up playing some Smash Bros, which Akane uses to flex on Hanabi the next day. This clearly pushes Hanabi over the edge and gives her the bright idea to get some revenge on Akane. And how does she do this? By trying to get away one of Akane's boy toys. To which she quickly realizes that she doesn't really care about all that sort of stuff, and what he and Akane just want is to play some Smash Bros. So after some messing around, she doesn't really go with it anymore. On the other hand, Mocha takes Mugi out on a date, which is a futile effort as the childhood friend is almost never victorious. The date ends up feeling kind of pitiful as most of the time Mugi is just pulling Mocha around until they end up in Mugi's apartment, which results in some complicated feelings being thrown around. Then it's summer vacation. Mugi and Hanabi meet up and decide that by the end of summer they're both going to confess to their respective teachers. Hanabi confesses and gets rejected. Mugi confesses but doesn't get rejected. So the logical thing to do is, well, you guessed it, play some more Smash Bros. Oh, and let me just remind you that he's 16. Meanwhile, Echan invites Hanabi for a summer getaway for just the two of them, so she can play some Smash Bros one last time before cutting things off with her. But she gets controller blocked by her cousin, who also has a thing for Echan. Echan just wants to distance herself from Hanabi after all that awful stuff she's done to her, but Hanabi says no and still wants to be friends. And that's that. Switching over to Akane, she and Mugi have been really going at it playing Smash. Nintendo would definitely not approve of that. Mugi is well aware that she belongs to the streets, but believes he can change her somehow with the power of love or something like that. She is well aware of his intentions, but eggs him on, agreeing to go out with Kanai while still fooling around with Mugi. So she goes on a date with Kanai, and she's utterly baffled at the fact that this guy is being so bland with her, not making any advances on her or just being an all-around gentleman to her. But then things go south as one of Akane's previous flings show up and still being salty from her ditching him, so he reveals to Kanai her true nature of being a total sleazebag. Fed up of putting up the act, she straight up admits it to Kanai, and also admits that she is most definitely going to cheat on him. And this is his response. Kanai-sensei? More like Kanai-simpsei? And she's completely moved by this display of affection. And what better way to show it than to immediately hook up with Mugi that same night? Honestly. But that's not all, as far as Kanai go on a trip where he proposes to her, which she still tells him that he's probably going to cheat, but once again, he's cool with that. But wait, she goes on to have one last date with Mugi. This is like the final one, as it ends on a pretty emotional tone with them finding some kind of closure. The new semester starts, and wouldn't you know it, Mugi and Hanabi are both avoiding each other, not trying to talk about their whole situation. But then, just as luck would have it, they end up being alone in a room, which finally gives them the opportunity to talk about their feelings and stuff. They both realize that what they're really looking for is real love, which is going to be a long and hard search, and as much as they want to be together, they can't, so they just end up parting ways for good. Kuzu no Honkai is a romance anime that does a great job making you hate its main cast. We're rarely ever shown the good sides of these characters, as all we ever see is them being trash in some way or the other to themselves or to those they hold close to them. I wouldn't call the writing phenomenal, but it's pretty good. In the span of 12 episodes, everyone gets fleshed out, though some get more screen time than others. Every character gets the chance to narrate and share some of their thoughts, so we get to see things from their perspective. It's a great way to get to know the characters better, as we get to see just how messed up their way of thinking really is, as well as their insecurities. Another thing that's pretty consistent among all these characters is how big of a hypocrite they all are. For example, Hanabi hates being on the receiving end of unrequited love, but somehow magically forgets that she's in the same spot. And Mocha holds an idealized version of Mugi in her head, but is devastated when she finds out Mugi does the same to her, which is why he can't see her as a romantic partner. They complain about a lot of things all the time while wallowing in self-pity, and the characters realize how absolutely awful they are deep down inside. This only makes them hate themselves even more and believe there's no redemption, making them fall further into the assholery. They all develop pretty interestingly too. Our main characters, Mugi and Hanabi, as well as Echan, are seemingly developed backwards, getting more and more messed up ways of thinking as they try to understand how they feel inside before reaching the resolution at the end. Though that resolution feels somewhat incomplete, as while they've understood themselves a lot better, they aren't quite done. Then there's Mocha, who actually gets a pretty healthy conclusion to her character arc, as she finally realizes the kind of relationship she and Mugi have and the way he sees her, so she decides to pick herself up and actually move on. And what's even better is that she realizes this all on her own without some big emotional speech. Kanai sorta remains stagnant in his development though, cause he unintentionally serves as the foil to Akane. Akane, who, for the most part, doesn't develop, or rather, chooses not to develop. That is until Kanai proposes to her, which pushes her to actually want to try a healthy relationship for once. It's ironic cause, for the most part, we as the audience are made to hate her guts, but at that moment she's proposed to, we just see just how vulnerable she is, and we sort of end up feeling happy for her. She, along with Mocha, are the only ones who get the good ending to this story. Kuzu no Honkai definitely had something going for it, and how it tackled love and romance. It shows a lot about the dark side of love and how warped it can get. Watching it was a breath of fresh air. I hated the cast not because they were bad characters, but because they were bad people. But in the end, after all that was over, after my anger had dissipated, I ended up feeling bad for them, and only hope they'd find the love they truly deserve. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. I'd love to know what you guys think about Kuzu no Honkai and the way it handles romance in the comments below. This has been your very favorite slice of bread, signing off.